Building a home is a significant event in one's life. Please listen to the story of my marital relationship that collapsed immediately after reaching the pinnacle of happiness. I'm Kate. I'm 30 years old. My family consists of my husband Tony, who will be 35 years old, and our 3-year-old daughter Mia. We are going to build our long-awaited dream house. When I say this, people often respond with, "You must be living a perfect and happy life." Well, that's not the case for me. Lately, I've been constantly worried about our house under construction and my in-laws. The first step towards the collapse was when I left my daughter with my in-laws. My husband and I both work, so we hardly have any time on weekdays. We would usually go out on weekends to look at properties and discuss house designs. Since my daughter would get bored and fussy along the way, I would always leave her with my parents who live nearby. However, one morning, my father fell ill and had to go to the hospital. I received a message saying that they couldn't take care of Mia. It couldn't be helped, so I decided to cancel our plans for the day. That's what I thought, but my husband suggested.
What if we ask my parents to take care of her?
To be honest, I don't get along well with my in-laws. They believe that as the son's wife, I don't need to hold back and can say whatever I want. What era are we in? Besides, I feel hesitant about suddenly asking them to take care of a 3-year-old. But if we postpone today's plans, the completion of our house would be delayed. I struggled with the decision, but I had no choice for today, so I decided to entrust my daughter to my in-laws. As soon as I finished my errands that day, I went straight to my in-laws' house with an expensive box of sweets as a gift. In the evening, we arrived at my in-laws' house, and perhaps thanks to the gift, they responded cheerfully. After politely thanking my in-laws, we started heading home when my daughter said,
"Where is Grandpa and Grandma's room in the new house?"
I was taken aback and asked Mia, "What are you talking about? Did Grandpa and Grandma ask you that?"
"I don't know."
With that, she ended the conversation and started talking to her stuffed penguin. Mia calls my parents a mom's grandpa and a mom's grandma. Grandpa and a grandma refer to no one other than my in-laws. I see. Grandpa and Grandma must have been wondering if there is a room for them when they come to our house. At that time, I'm sure that's what I thought. Since then, my in-laws have started visiting us frequently, targeting the times when my husband and I are at home, such as weekday evenings and holidays. Our family is currently living in a small and old rental apartment to save money for buying a house. Whenever my in-laws come to our house, they immediately settle down in the dining area or on the sofa and ask to see the documents related to our house under construction. Even before I can stop them, my husband eagerly presents the documents and starts explaining to my in-laws. Why do they need to see them? It's already uncomfortable enough that they come over so often. After that, my mother-in-law bombards me with a series of questions, as if she were in a parliamentary debate. I'm the one who has to answer the questions, not my husband. It's as if the chairperson is speaking through her.
Regarding this floor plan, don't you think the kitchen's location here is inconvenient? Please change it. Since there are few small rooms, add more. Everyone feels comfortable in small rooms as they get older. Besides, having only one children's room won't be enough when you have another child. What are your thoughts on the declining birth rate?
I'm sorry. The last sentence was a lie. It's not like they're questioning me about measures to counter the declining birth rate. This time, it seems to be my turn to answer. Based on discussions between my husband and me, following proper procedures, and having meetings with the contractor, the foundation work has already begun. It's no longer possible to change the layout, so please understand. I responded somewhat angrily. Then, they started asking me in great detail about the furniture and appliances. My mother-in-law claims to be a professional when it comes to houses.
I have many friends, and I've visited various homes and carefully observed different rooms. With my discerning eye, I can immediately tell which rooms are comfortable and which furniture has good taste. This house, this room, is completely unacceptable. It will drive away good fortune, and even work won't go well. It's the worst.
She claims to be a professional, but she's just a blood-sucking bug. My mother-in-law is so annoying that I jokingly said, in that case, should we make it a 2-family house and split the cost? But my in-laws got furious. My father-in-law.
Are you telling us to give you money? You ungrateful child.
A 2-family house? I hate anything that feels so formal and lonely.
That day, my in-laws left early. Go home, go home. You're not even real parents. There's no need to be told to be filial. They're more like what? That night, after putting our daughter to bed, my husband approached me with an irritated expression.
My parents are just trying to give us advice out of goodwill, so don't be so cold.
Cold? That's not my intention. Besides, aren't your parents the ones being much more disrespectful? They keep meddling in our house matters and always try to one-up us. They treat me like a fool just because I'm the daughter-in-law.
They're our parents, so it's only natural. You're being incredibly rude to their well-intentioned advice. You're such an insensitive woman. Seriously. Calm down and reflect.
After that, my husband turned away and refused to speak. Well, they're your parents, no doubt about that. But we have our own separate family. Besides, we haven't received any financial assistance from your parents. It's rude to keep giving unsolicited opinions without contributing financially. My husband told me to calm down, but instead of cooling off, I became even more angry at his unreasonable choice of words. That night, I had trouble falling asleep. After all the ups and downs, our house was finally completed. Our family moved in with excitement and began living in our new home.
Starting today, my parents will be living with us. We can use the larger room upstairs for my father and the smaller one for my mother. It shouldn't be a problem, right?
Hold on a second. Why are you suddenly saying such things? Didn't we decide to use one of the rooms upstairs as Mia's room? I never agreed to live with your parents. Besides, your father and mother might not like that room, considering how they usually are.
They won't say anything. They've already seen the rooms, so don't worry.
Your parents saw the rooms? When?
I think it was the day before we went for the house viewing.
Wait a minute. Let me confirm. Your parents came to see this house the day before we went for the viewing.
Yes. They said they wanted to see it, so I gave them the key I was holding. It's not a big deal, they just wanted to take a look. It doesn't cost anything.
Husband seemed annoyed as if the conversation was over and went back to working on the TV wiring that was left unfinished. It does cost something, and it just decreased. And quite dramatically. I didn't want to see my husband's face, so I left the kitchen unpacking as it was and went upstairs. I closed the door, locked it, and tried to organize my thoughts that were in disarray due to confusion and anger. I truly felt relieved that Mia was at the nursery school because it allowed me to think alone. Thanks to that, I can think clearly and calmly. I don't want to be with those people anymore, not even for a second. However, we had just made a big purchase of a house. I need to be calm and composed. I need to think about what to say and what not to say. I need to think about our future, mine and Mia's. I stayed in the room, contemplating and keeping these thoughts in mind while waiting for my in-laws to arrive. As my husband said, my in-laws arrived in the early afternoon along with a truck carrying their belongings.
You should at least greet us. You guys have no common sense.
Oh, it's still a mess here. You're so clumsy.
After complaining for a while, my in-laws naturally entered our newly built house. I was listening attentively from the second floor, so I came out of the room and headed towards the entrance. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I never heard anything about living together with you. My first words, spoken with determination, were surprisingly cold. Father-in-law seemed annoyed by that and quickly blamed me.
I told Tony. There shouldn't be any problem.
No, there is a problem. I heard from Tony this morning that you and mother-in-law have the intention to live together. Besides, I have no intention of living with you. Not with such rude people.
What did you say? Tony said it was fine.
That's right. You're such an impudent daughter-in-law. If you don't like it, why don't you leave, Kate?
No, it's not going to work. I've been thinking this for a long time, but our ways of thinking are too different to have a conversation with these people. As I was thinking about how to fight back, my husband came flying over in a panic.
What are you doing, Kate? Don't fight with my parents.
Fight? It's not an equal fight. I'm being verbally abused unilaterally just because I'm a wife. And now, I'm being blamed by my husband again. I think again that this parent and child are the same. Tony, I can't live with your parents.
You can't. Don't make things difficult for me. You're my wife, so you should obey your husband, right?
Before I am your wife, I am a human being. Do you think you can force me to obey you? My father-in-law, who had been listening to our conversation.
I don't want a wife like that.
Then my husband also agreed with his father, saying,
That's right. Maybe it's better to divorce a wife who can't treat my parents well.
I've been waiting for this. Understood. Then let's get a divorce. I said it clearly. A husband who brought up the idea of divorce, and a wife who agreed to it. I hope my smartphone in my pocket is recording this exchange well. With a feeling of prayer, I continued on. We will become strangers, so please return the 35 million yen that Tony lent us as the construction cost of this house. Parents-in-law, huh? My parents-in-law raised their voices in surprise. My husband lost his color and looked at me with a face that was white beyond blue. I will explain very politely to my parents-in-law, who do not know the circumstances. It seems that there is some misunderstanding. Tony did not contribute a single yen to the purchase cost of the house. This house was built only with my savings. Because this person had no savings at all due to a complete lack of planning. Since my husband and I both work, we shared the same amount of living expenses from each other's income. We had a promise to save the remaining amount in each other's name, but this person wasted it and didn't put it into savings.
Hey, Kate. You don't have to go that far.
It's all true. And yet, when it came to buying a house, you wouldn't give in to having the house in my name, would you? So I made it so that I would lend you money. There's a loan agreement, so you can't pretend it didn't happen.
That's...
I left my husband and parents-in-law, who were dumbfounded, where they were, and quickly packed my valuables, clothes, my daughter's favorite toys and clothes into a suitcase and a Boston bag. Holding my daughter's favorite penguin under my arm, I loaded them into my compact car and quickly drove off. I said goodbye to the newly built house that I had a short relationship with. After that, I picked up my daughter from the nursery and headed to my parents' house. My parents were quite surprised when I suddenly appeared with a large amount of luggage while they were in their jerseys. If it's sudden and inconvenient, I can go to a business hotel or something, I said hesitantly, and my parents hurriedly stopped me. I heard later that my parents were worried that I might be thinking of taking my daughter with me. In fact, it was the opposite. I had made a vow to protect this child no matter what. For the time being, I explained the situation to my parents. That I was going to divorce my husband, who had no good points, and that I absolutely wanted to take care of my daughter. My parents promised to support me wholeheartedly. And they told me to live at their house for a while. This was a very grateful offer for me. As I worked that evening, I summarized everything that had happened between my husband and my parents-in-law in a document. I saved the audio data from the conversations I had with my husband and my parents-in-law, which I had recorded on my smartphone, to my computer and external media. Armed with these, I took paid leave and used my weekends to visit several law firms. Finally, I found a lawyer who seemed trustworthy and formally requested their assistance. As I continued with my busy daily life, a week had passed in the blink of an eye since I left our new home. On that day, when I finished work and left the office, someone was waiting for me. It was my husband. I would like to call him my ex-husband, but since the divorce papers had not been processed yet, he was still my husband on the family register, which was unfortunate. Although we hadn't had any conversations, I was afraid of what might happen if he got angry and did something. So, I looked for a place where there were people around and entered a cafe with him. I made sure to turn on the recording function on my smartphone, just in case. I tried to stay as calm as possible and asked him, "Do you have something to say?"
Yes, that's right. About the house, I want to give it to you, Kate. I want to change the ownership. Can you just forget about the money?
I replied, "I'm sorry, but I can't bring myself to live in that house anymore. Your parents stepped inside before us, didn't they?"
Those little details don't matter.
They matter to me. It's impossible. After taking a sip of coffee, I looked closely at my ex-husband. His hair was messy, with strands sticking out in several places. He had stubble on his chin, and his complexion wasn't good either. Although he was wearing a suit, his white shirt was wrinkled, and it seemed like he hadn't ironed it or taken it to the cleaners. I didn't know what kind of life he was living, but I thought he looked quite worn out.
Please, Kate. I can't easily repay such a large sum of money.
You knew it was a large sum of money when you borrowed it, didn't you? I suggested that we put the house in both our names, and I even proposed that it could be in my name alone. But you refused to let go of the idea that it should be your house, your name.
That's because I thought I was the head of the household. And even though I mentioned divorce, I wasn't serious. Why did you take it seriously?
I'm serious. I'm fed up, and I'm definitely getting a divorce. If it were just a lack of ambition, it would be one thing, but I can't imagine being stuck with such rude parents.
That's...
Mia is waiting for me, so if we're done talking, I'm going home.
Wait. I'll be the one to take care of Mia.
I felt uneasy at my ex-husband's words. When I returned home, I asked my parents to be careful not to let Mia be taken away by force. A few days after my ex-husband's visit, I received a call from the nursery saying that someone who appeared to be my parents-in-law had come. I left work early and hurried to the nursery. Fortunately, I had informed them in advance, so my parents-in-law were waiting for me in a separate room. They had made sure that Mia wouldn't meet them. When I entered the room where my parents-in-law were, I was suddenly shouted at.
Give back our grandchild. You greedy thief.
What do you mean by greedy thief? I haven't stolen anything.
If you're not a thief, then you're a fraud. You must have done something wicked to earn that money. Otherwise, there's no way you could have that much money at your age.
No, all the money I lent to Tony is mine. It's the money I earned fairly and squarely, my own money, money I received from my parents, and money I received as a gift from my grandmother while she was still alive.
Huh? A gift?
Yes. Every year, they transferred an amount that was not subject to gift tax to an account in my name. The total amount, the money I received from selling stocks in my name, and the savings I had accumulated, all added up to that amount.
It really was Kate's money.
Didn't you give Tony a gift while you were alive? You can still do it now.
Gur.
My father-in-law groaned and fell silent. My parents-in-law are flashy and love to show off, and they love luxury more than anything else. They're an ordinary salaried family, so they probably don't have much savings and no passive income. It's clear that they never even thought of giving a gift while they were alive. I'm sorry, but I'm divorcing Tony. I'll take care of Mia myself. Please don't come to the nursery anymore because it's a nuisance. I said that much and quickly took Mia and went back to my parents' house. My advice was in vain, and Tony and my parents-in-law came several times after that. Each time, I tried to talk to them as calmly as possible and send them away, but I was often grabbed by the arm or showered with abusive language. I recorded all of their behavior on my smartphone. About a month had passed since the day I left our new home. I sent a document through a lawyer requesting repayment of the debt and agreement on the divorce. My ex-husband agreed to most of it, but he showed a fighting spirit regarding custody. However, when I mentioned that I would claim compensation if we fought, he backed down. He had become quite docile. After all, I had plenty of evidence, and he had no savings to pay. It took a little longer than I expected for my ex-husband to repay the debt. This was because the sale of the new house did not go as smoothly as I had hoped. At first, I thought that Tony and my parents-in-law would live in the new house together. The reason was simple. Neither my parents-in-law nor my husband could afford to pay the 35 million yen purchase price. My husband didn't have any savings to begin with, and even if they sold the old house where my parents-in-law lived, it wouldn't be enough to cover the cost. In the end, we put the new house up for sale at a lower price than the purchase price, and after several price reductions, we finally found a buyer. The difference between the purchase price and the sale price, as well as the commission at the time of sale, were borrowed by my husband from the bank. My husband, who had lost his house and was burdened with debt, ended up living with my parents-in-law in their shabby house. Furthermore, my ex-husband's sister, who had divorced, returned with her 2 sons. The sons were in junior high school and high school. Perhaps because 6 adults were crowded into a small, dilapidated house, the sound of them verbally abusing each other echoed every day, and it became a topic of conversation in the neighborhood. This family no longer had anything to do with us. Since they couldn't even pay child support, there was no need to have any contact with them. 4 years have passed since then, and my daughter Mia is now in the 2nd grade of elementary school. The two of us are currently renting a room near my parents' house. On days when I come home late from work, my parents take care of Mia for me, and with their help, the two of us spend our days happily. I had thought that it would be nice to continue living with just the two of us without getting married again, but now I have someone I'm dating. He is a 36-year-old man with a 1st-grade daughter and a history of divorce. We often see each other when we drop off and pick up our children at the nursery, and we started talking, which led to a confession. Recently, the 4 of us have been going out together with our daughters. The other day, Mia casually said,
If we build a house, it would be nice if we all had our own rooms, and it would be great if we could have a dog.
My heart skipped a beat when I heard those words. Actually, a little while ago, I received a proposal from that man. I'm waiting for an answer because of my daughters, but my mind is made up. I approached Mia and hugged her small back. I said, that's right. I want to build a house again. This time, let's discuss it as a family and make a house where everyone can be happy.